diversity and inclusion in TV, radio and film. My name's Samina Kiyani. I'm a broadcast journalist and TV producer. I've got over 25 years working in TV and some work across radio and film. And I've got firsthand experience of this industry's approach to diversity, inclusion and representation of people from different backgrounds. Like my good self, I'm British, I'm Pakistani, I'm a woman. So you can understand it's super important for me that my industry opens up opportunities for everybody, not just for the few. I'm joined by a different guest each week who'll be discussing their experience, their thoughts, their opinions about diversity and inclusion in their domain, in their area of where they work. It's time now to introduce my guest today. She's a composer and she's composed music. Some of her music's been used for some huge shows across TV currently, BBC News, The Apprentice, Celebrity MasterChef and Big Brother. Welcome, Claire Batchelor. Hi, Claire.
Hi, Samina. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So tell me, what's your experience of being a female composer in the TV industry?
Well, I think it's sort of changed over the past couple of years, actually. You don't always know, the jobs you lose out on and opportunities you may not have been considered for. You don't know yourself whether it's because somebody thought, oh, maybe a female composer wouldn't want to write in this sort of style, or maybe you're pigeonholed a little bit. Like they might think, oh, she can't write sort of action music or something like that. Or just you're not as prominent, you're not getting as much exposure. But I think certainly in the last 12 months, I've noticed quite a change for the better, which is fantastic. And I've even found people hiring me for things because I'm a female composer and wanting to actually have a more diverse team, and actually being very proactive in trying to have more diverse people working on their projects.
Well, that's really encouraging to hear. And it's great that you've seen that difference. And I think that difference is being implemented across the board incrementally. So as a whole, I see that you're sat in your studio. It's quite a solitary job, I imagine, but nevertheless, your business, you're part of that industry. What does that look like in terms of gender parity, and also around different people from different backgrounds? How diverse is your area of TV?
It's not diverse at all. It's terrible. The figures are pretty dire. I think, you can look at PRS for Music membership, which does include songwriters as well. So it's not going to be perfect, but a few years ago, PRS membership was 13% female.
Can you just tell us what that is?
Sure. So PRS for Music is how a composer will collect their royalties. So if your piece of music's on TV, you'll get paid a royalty by PRS for Music. So you have to be a member of PRS for Music in order to do that. So to see their membership is kind of giving you an idea of the gender balance. So yeah, a few years ago, it's about 13% female. Then it got up to
13. Wow, that's really low. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it got up to about 16, and I think it's gone up a little bit more now. But it's still, I think it's still under 20%. So it's not a good balance at all.
No, that's pretty poor. Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's a lack of women and those from underrepresented groups in your arena of work?
Unfortunately, I think it's because the TV industry historically is kind of quite a small pool of society. It tends to be people who've maybe gone to private school, Oxford, Cambridge. There's a lot of people who've come from that background. And so if you haven't come from that background, it's a lot harder, I think, to get your foot in the door and to make the right contacts.
Talking about you just made a reference to socioeconomics. For those who come from the lower rungs of the socioeconomic ladder, to work in a job like yours, is that going to be challenging? Do you need money to be able to be successful as a composer for TV to begin with?
I think it's not impossible, because I've done it for a start. You know, I didn't go to Oxford or Cambridge, and it makes it a lot harder. I think it makes it a lot more challenging. It doesn't make it impossible though, and I think that's what we have to really cling on to, is that if you're persistent enough and believe in your talents, you can get somewhere. But you've really got to put everything into it. You know, you may have to make other sacrifices. And it is very difficult, but you can do it. You can do it.
So correct me if I'm wrong. The message I'm getting from what you've just said is that if you don't come from a privileged background, you just got to work that much harder to make grounds for yourself, to get a foot in the door.
I would say so, as a broad statement. I mean, sometimes you might get lucky, you might, you know, a client might see your work somewhere, and some people might shoot into stardom. Or
yeah, these things do happen, but they're rare. They're not pervasive, let's face it.
They're very rare. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you absolutely can do it, but it's a challenge.
Yeah. Do you know what I read last week? I was reading, just doing some research around composing and stuff. You know, I like to be prepared before I do my interviews. And I came across this really interesting interview with a girl who wasn't identified. Well, it turns out she was a girl, but previously there was no name. So what her story is, that she was a composer like your good self, but at the beginning of her career, what she did, she started sharing what she was composing online on different platforms, but removing all her identity out of it. So it was all about the music. It was all about the work. There's no reference to her gender, you know, age, nothing, background, absolutely nothing. And when she was asked, why did you do this? And she said, well, I didn't want to be judged for me as a woman, as, you know, she could have been a woman of color. I don't know. There was no reference to that. But she said, I just wanted my music to be judged on merit. I mean, that's quite a pathway to go down. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's interesting. It's quite an extreme way to do it. I would love to know if she tested it, you know, if she posted as a female composer, and if she posted things as an anonymous composer, if she got different interactions, if she got more interactions. You know, I'd love to know the sort of result.
No comparative, is there?
No, it's interesting. I mean, it's been going on for ages though, hasn't it? I mean, you can look at authors, you know, novelists who use a pseudonym of a different, you know, a female author who will use a male name and things like that. It's been going on a long time, but it's an interesting idea. But I think we're not going to really see any big changes if we hide. You know, I post as myself. I post my music as myself online, and I think actually it's probably a good idea to keep doing that, because younger female composers can then see this is a viable job and see, oh, well, you know, that's a female composer, that's female, you know, this is a job I could do. So I think it's interesting, but I would prefer to post just as myself.
Yeah. And you know, what you've just said also lends itself to the more women that are seen publicly, it becomes more normalized that women are doing this, not just can do this, they are doing this.
Absolutely. And I actually think that's incredibly important. You know, it takes a lot of guts to go into a completely male dominated industry as it is, but the more people like you that you see in that industry, it makes it less kind of unreachable and thinking, oh, I could never do that, you know, there's no one like me in that industry. Whereas if you see, oh, there are people like me in that industry, you start to consider it. You know, the younger, you know, if you're a female musician, a young musician, but you love writing music and you love TV and film, then why not think about writing for TV and film as a career? You know, you don't have to go the orchestra route, or you don't have to go, you know, just being classical musician route. There's so many other things that you can do.
Well, and what do you think women in your industry can do, the ones who, you know, are successful like your good self, to reach down the hand, down the career ladder and pull a few other women up into your business?
I think, you know, just trying to be visible, doing things like this is fantastic. You know, and if anyone reaches out to me for advice, I try and give them a good advice. And I do all I can do really to encourage them, because I think that's really important.
I noticed I've been watching I do a lot of binge watching of TV, as you can imagine, working in this business, just to see what's out there, what different formats are being generated and so on. And what I've discovered is, especially on Netflix and across the board, but particularly on Netflix, there's a lot of women leads being used in dramas and films and series, which is just fantastic. Now, I was wondering what your thoughts are about these series in relation to the music composed for them. Given there's a strong female lead, or there's a strong female narrative story, do you think that requires a female touch, a female musician, composer rather, to produce the music?
I mean, I don't think it has to be a female composer, and certainly a lot of those Netflix shows, I actually can't think of one Netflix show that's had a female composer. So most of those Netflix shows are going to have male composers. And but I think it's fantastic to have a female storyline and use a female composer. I think that's wonderful when people do that. And you know, there's a case of, you know, there's a fantastic Hollywood composer, Pinar Toprak, female composer. She pitched for the film Wonder Woman. Because Wonder Woman, why wouldn't you want a female composer for that? I mean,
exactly.
She pitched for that and didn't get the job. And I thought it was just awful that they had a male composer for Wonder Woman. I just thought, come on. But because of that demo that she did for that film, she then went on to do Captain Marvel. She was the composer of Captain Marvel. So that was fantastic. It absolutely doesn't have to be, oh, female lead, you know, we'll use a female composer. But I think just being open-minded and thinking, you know, it doesn't have to be a male composer for this, it doesn't have to be a female composer for that. Just, you know, more female composers writing for more different things, being diverse, I think is great.
Yeah, what do you think diversity can bring to the music world in TV?
Well, it's incredible. It brings richness, it brings authenticity. You know, it's not somebody trying to write in a style that they know nothing really about. It's somebody's heritage. You can hire musicians from all over the world, composers from all over the world. I think it improves. I think diversity improves creativity, authenticity. I think it's just it's needed. It's needed.
Just going back to what you said earlier, the reference I made to more female leads in Netflix and more stories around women, and the music side of it, composing side of it to catch up with what's happening on screen. Do you think the industry needs to open up calls to action for women, for more women to submit?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we're a bit behind. We're getting the female leads now, and then we need the female directors, and then we need the female composers. You know, we're a bit down the line, because I also think, you know, there's unconscious bias which everybody has. If you've got a male director, they're probably more likely to hire a male composer. You know, if you've got a female director, perhaps they might be more likely to hire a female composer. So once you get the people high ups, you know, who are hiring the composers, if that's more diverse, then I think you'll see, and not just composers, but all of post-production, you know, anyone, you know, sound, everything would become more diverse as a result.
And moving forward, what steps do you think, apart from the one you've just shared, do you think the industry needs to take to ensure that more women composers are involved in productions?
I mean, it's just about people being proactive. As I say, I mean, I was so lucky this year. I got a job from, it was a male composer. He was looking to diversify his team. He needed some more composers to help him on a TV show. And he reached out on the internet looking for female composers, or not just female, but diverse, you know, in any way diverse. So that was fantastic. You know, people doing things like that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think so. And the more people that do that incrementally, you can improve things as you go along. Yeah. Claire, it's been really, really interesting to talk to you today. And thanks so much for sharing your thoughts, your opinions, and your experience, you know, of what it means to be a female composer in this business. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Samina.
You're welcome. If you've got something to say about anything that Claire shared with us today, or what we've discussed, or your generally your thoughts and even ideas on how to improve things on this really important subject matter of representation of people from more diverse communities in TV, radio and film, then I'd love to hear from you. Please leave me a message, and I'll definitely read all your messages. And also, if there's any questions you'd like me to pose to my guests that I haven't done already, then again, feel free to get in touch with me, and I'll pick out the best ones and put those to my guests. If you want to see my other interviews, if you're interested in catching up with my other interviews, then you can find details of those across my social media platforms and on YouTube. Thank you so much to Claire again for joining me today, and also a huge thanks to you for watching, and see you next time.